I want to play something that Dan Quinn was talking about, though, in this Dallas defense, because the Dallas defense is working at a very high level. And it's kind of been boring to talk about the Cowboys because of how good this defense has been. Because we understand the offense doesn't have to do a lot. They don't have to. They just have to hold on to the ball, move it a little bit, keep the defense off the field so those numbers will stay up. But that defense and the pass rush and what they're able to do and what Micah Parsons has been able to do, we know what he's been able to do with Dan Quinn. What I found interesting in Dan Quinn talking to the media the other day was he started to talk about Micah Parsons, we can move him wherever, and we can put him wherever on the line, and we can do this. But people started to figure out, well, we know if he's pass rushing, we know if he's backing off, we know what he's doing because he's starting to tip things off. So we know he did boxing to get his handwork up and learn to fight off this offseason. Well, Dan Quinn found another thing about disguising Micah Parsons and disguising how he's going to use him, which is taking another step into what Rob Babers loves, positionless football. And it's the next step, I believe, in positionless football. Here's Dan Quinn talking about realizing with Micah Parsons that he has to start using him in different ways to hide how he's using him.
Yeah, he and others have pushed me to, find out things that somebody can do. And so they don't have to come in for a specific package, but if they can be in the game and then we can move the pieces around, I thought that would be more valuable as opposed to, I remember a year ago, a friend that I'd coached against had said, we knew if it was 3 D linemen in him or 4 D linemen in him, where he would be. And so I remembered that lesson and heading into the offseason to say, okay, that's a good challenge for us to find how we can be in a package that we want to be, but make it look different without having to change, an entire, defensive package. So that is, kind of the catalyst of why it got pushed there. And JK does that, and Leighton does that, and some others. But having that ability to move around within, and like I said, some of the guys in basketball have influenced me on that too, to say, here's a guy who can handle the ball, but he doesn't traditionally play a 5. So how would you use a player like that? And so when you have somebody that has unique stuff, it's forced me to, push myself in that direction too.
So that's where he started to realize, well, if I'm only putting in 3 and if I have 3 and Micah Parsons on 3 D linemen, they know he's coming at me. They know what we're using him for. So if I want to put in a lineup and I don't want to tip my hand at all to what I'm doing by the personnel being on the field, I'm starting to use my positionless football all in different packages, and we're changing up the playbook and pulling plays out of different formations and figuring out how to make them work. Where we're usually having 3 down linemen, now I can put 4 because it's Micah Parsons, and I can use him in different ways and start to confuse them because I was telling some of my plays. And it's a new step in positionless football that if you get enough of these guys, that you can continue to move things around and you don't have to switch personnel. You don't have to switch formations. You don't have to switch any of it. But you can completely change up what you're doing. You can completely switch up the look that they're coming at, where safeties are coming up and playing in linebacker spots, and linebackers are rushing, and defensive ends are switching which side they're on, and some defensive end is playing inside or outside. And part of that is more and more players, because Dan Quinn stayed, and one of the reasons he stayed is because he knew he could do something special with his defense. Here's Dan Quinn talking about DeMarcus Lawrence, and now that he can move him around.
Yeah, I thought, as he played really aggressive, and that's, no Dan, but there's a level that you can go to where he's playing at different spots. I saw him have a really good rush outside at the right end, where he's played so much left end and had good things. But when we can move guys around into different spaces, I think that's what really, sets it apart. And so he's so active. He thinks about the ball. You saw him on a rush. He got his hand on one that was, I believe, it was down near their end zone. It hit the ground where Diggs was, but he got a piece of that one. It's just the awareness to not just rush, but to try to, extend and win the last yard of the pass rush. And so those are the things that I've seen with him, but he has really improved where now he can really align almost anywhere along the defensive line and feel very comfortable doing that. And so you can imagine that's not as easy to do when you've played mostly left end for your career. So I really tip my hat to him for not only accepting that, but to say, okay, hey, this is another part of how we play.
What you're doing with Micah kind of influences that a little bit with him when he says, hey, he's working with this guy.
I think it's part of it, but not the driving reason. Sometimes we just want to, put him in a matchup too. And so not one size fits all. And so we do talk a lot about Micah and Trey and a lot, but there's a lot of other players that have that's why I was so proud, like I said, of Curse and of Hooker and a guy like D-Law and DA that we move into different spots. And when they get their chances, they nail those. And sometimes you can overplay to one player. And that's what's fun about our group. If you do that, we're going to be prepared to attack in another way. And so if you overplay your hand to one side, there's some other people that are ready to take that action.
That's what's making the Dallas Cowboys defense so elite this season, is the ability to not only play positionless football and throw and have a guy like Micah Parsons, who is next level, and have a guy like Trayvon Diggs, who is next level, then bring in safeties that are being able to play in multiple different positions and playing the run game and playing the pass game. Not only that, but now you have multiple players on your line even with DeMarcus Lawrence, and you can mask it because they don't have to know who's the pass rusher. You can put in a DeMarcus Lawrence and move him around to where he'd be in a natural pass rushing place and back him out of it because Micah Parsons is rushing, and the plays that they thought they knew were coming and the reads they thought they knew were going to happen are now all changed up. And the reality is the play could look the exact same and three different people could be coming at you. And instead of changing formations to have to do this like you normally do, or change personnel group to cover for something else, you're starting to get players that are good enough that you are able to do it on a major scale. That's why the Cowboys have been elite. That is why the Cowboys are going to continue to be at a high level. And as long as Mike McCarthy continues to do what he's been doing, which is play the good boy and play the company line and put in and just let's not be fun. Let's just play football. We got CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks will be coming back. Tony Pollard, we're using him. We gave him the most carries, but we're not overusing Tony Pollard. We're figuring out a way to make it work with Rico Dowdle and Deuce Vaughn getting some snaps, putting Kevontae Turpin in there. This Cowboys team could be something to talk about. We'll know more once we get into some, once we get to that 49ers game. We'll know a little bit more. Until then, I don't know how much we're going to know. But once we get to that 49ers game, we can see some. If this Dallas Cowboys team could be a special one because of Dan Quinn, because of what he's been able to build there in that defense. It's an impressive thing.